Hi, this is Lucia with The Art of Love, and this week I have an email from a woman who says, I love your work, and that's why I want to contact only you about my relationship problem. Wow, well, thank you so much. I'm honored and flattered. I've been in a 1.5 year relationship, and my partner and I broke up last week. I'm 24 and he's 40. When we met, sparks were flying and we had a great connection. We were attracted to each other and could talk hours on the phone when we didn't see each other. So far, so good, but we do know the punchline is coming up. He got out of a previous relationship of 7 years around 6 months before I met him. And there you have it. 6 months is not enough time to be over a 7 year relationship. They say usually it takes about 2 months for every year you were together, which means that it would take 14 months to be over the previous relationship, if you're ever really over it. So if we go by that formula, then 6 months is way too short. Okay, continuing on. He has 2 children with her, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. It was a rough breakup and he was devastated. And so if it's a rough breakup, then you're going to have to add even more time to get over the previous relationship. When I met him, I could see that it still affected him. He told me he honestly wasn't ready for another relationship yet. Good. I'm glad he knew that. During that time, we became close and had a good friendship. We got closer and closer, and after seeing each other casually for 6 months, I'm not sure what you mean by casually, but okay, we eventually did get together and decide to give it a shot. But I also did notice that throughout the relationship, he was always kind of scared and kept a bit of a distance. We also moved in together. Not a good idea. You see that someone is scared and they're keeping their distance and you decide to move in together. Why? Okay, moving on. We made plans for our future together, but he was still scared. He would say that if I come close, he might lose it all again and that he cannot handle that. Because of the little distance here and there, I got nervous and unsure at times. It made me feel horrible. I love this man so much, we got into fights because of this fear. That's right, and that's one of the main reasons that you actually don't want to date someone until they're absolutely ready. Because you're going to be like a yo-yo. They're not totally ready. They do want to date you, but a part of them doesn't want to date you or anybody. And so there's this push and pull, this back and forth, and you feel like a yo-yo because he comes close, but then he gets scared, so then he pulls away. So you feel unsure. You think it's you, not realizing it's actually his fear. And so you start to question it and you get into fights. Okay, moving on, the fights got more frequent and I got fed up with it. I told him that I was not sure if I could stay with him. He said I shouldn't be so silly and that we're a great couple and all is going well. I continued telling him that I was unsure and the fights got worse. So here's the thing about fighting. A lot of the times you're fighting over things that don't need to be fought over. You can't argue with someone's feelings, with someone's emotions. They feel what they feel. So arguing and fighting about it is not going to change it. You can't talk someone out of their emotions. And also keep in mind that fighting, arguing, complaining, begging lowers interest level. And once the interest level goes down past 50%, the relationship is going to end. You're supposed to be doing things to raise the interest level or keep it where it is, but you do not do anything to lower it if you want the relationship to continue. So a lot of times you don't need to fight. You just need to discuss what's going on, communicate, and negotiate. That's what most people are lacking in their relationship, and that's what leads to fights, and that's what leads to breakups. There's an issue, you communicate, you talk about it, and you find a solution, like mature adults. Because otherwise, you're just going to keep fighting, and that's what happened here. And she goes on to say, I continued telling him that I was unsure, and the fights got worse. I got away for a few days to think, and when I got back to the house, he had packed up all my stuff and just coldly told me we could not continue like this and we should break up. There were no tears from his side. I did cry a bit, even though I said it was for the better to break up. I asked him why he acted so cold, and he told me he had to keep himself together for the children. So just because he's acting cold at that moment, it doesn't mean he doesn't care. He just wanted to be stoic and not break down in front of you or break down at all. He said that maybe I loved him at a different level than he loved me. He was at 75% and I was at 95%. So it's good to know he knows about interest level. Yeah, that's probably what it is too. Also, you can't push someone. You can only inspire them to raise their interest level. So if they're at 75 and they're still not where you're at, and you start complaining about it, you're going to get into fights like this, and that's exactly what happened. I asked him why he was feeling like that, and he said, well, maybe I just couldn't open up my heart completely. He didn't look at me while he was saying this. I felt like he never loved me because of his cold behavior. No, like I said before, just because he was cold in that moment, it didn't mean that he didn't love you. He packed up my stuff, drove me to my studio. In the car, I asked him if he ever loved me. He looked annoyed and said, yes, enough to try a relationship with you, but I couldn't love you 100% because of all the fights and problems. And also, he couldn't love you 100% because he was scared and he was still getting over the breakup. So it's a combination of the two. We couldn't get this full connection because of this, he said. He put my bags at the front of the door, kissed my cheek, and walked off. I was totally confused by him just walking away. We haven't contacted each other. He said that out of sight didn't mean out of heart, and maybe things will be different in some time. I'm so confused by his cold behavior, I don't understand it. Did he ever love me if he acts like this? So you've mentioned the word cold like 4 times already. Don't judge the relationship by one incident. Just because he was acting cold at the end, it didn't mean that he didn't love you. He just needed to be cold in order to go through with the breakup. Maybe he didn't want to do it either, but he felt there was no other way. Okay. Is there a chance we'll ever get back together? Or is this goodbye forever after 1.5 years? What do I have to do? I feel horrible, and part of me wants him back. Of course. Of course you do. So here's the thing. You cannot push people past their fears, no matter how attracted they are to you, how strong the connection is, how hot you are, how great the sex is, whatever. Fear usually trumps everything. So when someone tells you that they just got out of a relationship, or it's been 6 months, or whatever it is, you need to make sure that they are totally over the person. Otherwise, things like this are going to happen. I actually went on a date with someone last year, and it was actually kind of the same situation. The date was great, one of my best ever. Everything was perfect, but there's always a but. He also actually had just gotten out of a 7-year relationship, and for him it was only 3 months that he was out of it. So when he contacted me about a second date, I said no. I headed for the hills because I knew what was going to happen if I did go ahead. It was not going to work out. He needed to be over the previous relationship. Also because in this situation, they broke up because of distance. So it wasn't even because they weren't getting along or someone cheated or whatever. It was just distance. So that's even worse. So you need to think when you meet someone, are they over their previous relationship? You want to find out when it ended, and you want to find out how they speak about their ex. And if there's any emotion either way, meaning they don't want to talk about it, it's like, I don't want to talk about it, I don't care about her, I don't care about him, or they're angry, that means they're not over it. But if they can speak about it calmly and say, we had a great relationship, she's a great person, I loved her, whatever, but, it just didn't work out, then more likely than not, he or she probably is over the ex. So in this case, all you can do is to leave him alone and don't contact him. He needs to think about whether he's ready for you or not. Maybe he needs more time. And maybe some time apart will do you good. So just leave him alone, and when he does contact you, which he probably will, you need to talk about what you want and how you're going to go about getting it. and you need to stop with the fighting, because as you can see, fighting does not lead to anything good. It usually leads to a breakup. And if you need more help with this, I can, of course, help you with private coaching. So if anyone has a question or a comment about this or anything else having to do with love, dating, or relationships, you can contact me at my website, theartoflove.net. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please be sure to review it and leave a rating. And remember also, I am available for private coaching. And in the meantime, remember that love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.